Episode 6, Heracles, Part 1, Chapter 1, To Clear Any Confusion. Hi, and welcome to the 6th episode of Hellenic Helpers. When you think of Heracles, what do you imagine? Do you imagine a muscular man wearing a golden fleece, or do you not even know who he is? Most likely, you know Heracles, just not the version I'm talking about. You would probably know him as Hercules, the Roman counterpart of Heracles. Heracles is a very popular Greek figure who did a lot, but sometimes the version shown is wrong. It's easy to get the wrong information in Greek mythology. There are so many stories, you can get them mixed up pretty easily. For example, the movie and show about Hercules. In the movie, Hercules is shown as the child of Zeus and the god of the skies with his loving mother Hera. I'm here to tell you that's not how it is in Greek mythology. Zeus cheated on Hera with an immortal woman named Alcmene. Hera is not a loving mother to Heracles. She hates him. It is also shown that the Fates have one eye. In the movie, they were combined with the Grey Sisters. The Grey Sisters are 3 immortal ladies that share one eye and one tooth. They are used to symbolize unity, while the Fates control the string of life. Also in the movie, Phil has the job of Chiron, a centaur who helps guide and train heroes. He also has the appearance of Pan, the god of the wild, and the name of Philoctetes, a king who fought in the Trojan War. Just so you know, I think the movie is great. It just isn't truthful to the myths, which is fine. It is still a good story. I'm just pointing out any misinformation. The movie paints Hades as the villain and gives Hades the role of Hera, with him trying to kill Hercules. The movies and show combine the Greek and Roman versions of the hero. Chapter 2, Birth of a Hero. One day, Alcmene was waiting for her husband Amphitryon to come home. Alcmene is a descendant of Perseus, a famous hero and son of Zeus. Zeus noticed her and he thought she was beautiful. Zeus went down to Thebes and disguised himself as Amphitryon. Then he proceeded to seduce Alcmene. The next day, when the real Amphitryon returned home, Alcmene thought she had already welcomed him home. That night, Alcmene got pregnant again, this time from her real husband. Amphitryon was confused by the lack of excitement from his wife. He had just returned. Why did she not seem to care? He visited the oracle, who told him what Zeus had done. As Alcmene was close to giving birth to Zeus's child, Zeus declared that the next descendant of himself to be born, aka Heracles, would become king of Mycenae. Hera made Zeus promise this and made a plan. She captured the goddess of childbirth, Aletheia, and prevented Alcmene from giving birth. She then made the wife of Sthenelus go into labor. Sthenelus is one of the sons of Perseus and Andromeda. His brother Electryon is the father of Alcmene. At the time, the wife of Sthenelus, Nisip, was only 7 months pregnant. She gave birth to a boy named Eurystheus. Then Hera, having succeeded in her plan, finally let Alcmene give birth to Heracles. She gave birth to Heracles, the child of Zeus, and Iphicles, the child of Amphitryon. Chapter 3, 12-ish labors. I have mentioned before how Hera really hates when her husband cheats. So before Heracles was even born, Hera hated him. When Heracles was born, Hera sent 2 deadly snakes to kill him, but Heracles was very strong and suffocated the snakes. His mother named him Heracles because it means Hera's glory. She did this hoping that Hera would give her child some mercy, but sadly that was not the case. Heracles was in a city named Thebes. Thebes had to give the Orchomenians 100 oxen for a recent war they had gone into. Heracles didn't like this, so he killed the people that had come to get the oxen. Then he sent their corpses back to the king, but not before he cut off the ears and noses. The king didn't like this, so he declared war on Thebes. Heracles and his father-in-law Amphitryon led Thebes into battle. Heracles killed many Orchomenians, but Amphitryon died during the battle. Thebes made the Orchomenians annually pay 200 oxen as payback. The king of Thebes, Creon, was very thankful for Heracles' help fighting. So as a thank you, he gave Heracles his daughter Megara. Megara and Heracles then got married. Together they had a lot of children. It is unknown how many. The gods sent down presents to Heracles. He got a bow from Apollo, a sword from Hermes, and a golden chainmail coat from Hephaestus. Everyone was happy for Heracles except Hera. She sent madness down to Thebes. Heracles was driven to insanity. He threw his kids into the fire. Heracles also killed his wife, but snapped out of his trance before hurting himself. Overwhelmed with grief, he sought out the oracle of Delphi, which told him to go to King Eurystheus, where he would get the 10 labors to complete. Chapter 4, Unfriendly Feline. Heracles' first task was to kill the Nemean lion. The thing about the Nemean lion is that its golden coat was impenetrable. When Heracles realized this, he lured the lion into a cave with 2 entrances. He blocked one entrance and then entered through the other. He choked the lion to death and then used a claw to skin the lion. He then draped a pelt over him and wore it as a coat. Most of the time, Heracles is pictured with his coat on, the head of the lion draped like a hood over his head. When he returned to King Eurystheus, the king got paranoid and gave him his second task. He was to go slay the Hydra. Heracles went to Lerna with his nephew. Just so you know, when you cut off one of the Hydra heads, it grows back. For some reason, people think it grows back multiple heads each time if you cut one off, but this is not correct. To prevent this from happening, they made a plan. Heracles would cut off the heads. Then, his nephew Iolaus would burn the stubs so they couldn't grow back. Heracles burned the last head, because it was immortal. Then he dipped his arrows in poison from the Hydra. When Heracles returned to the king said that the task didn't count because he had help from his nephew. Chapter 6, The Sacred Hind. The next task Heracles was given was to capture the Cernian hind. You might be wondering why he wasn't supposed to kill it. Well, the deer was sacred to the goddess Artemis. If he killed it, Artemis would hate him, and people don't last very long with an Olympian mad at them. Heracles set out to capture the hind. After a year of trying to capture the deer, both Heracles and the deer were very tired. But just as Heracles was about to capture the deer, Artemis appeared. Heracles explained the situation to the goddess, and she allowed him to take the deer and present it to the king. Chapter 7, A Rampaging Boar. The 4th task was for Heracles to retrieve the Erymanthian boar alive. The boar was dangerous and wild. It had been rampaging around, destroying villages and crops. Heracles set off on his task and stopped to see his friend Pholus. Pholus gave Heracles food, but Heracles wanted some wine. He asked his friend if he could open a bottle of wine, but the centaur said no. This was because it belonged to all of the centaurs. Heracles ignored the centaur and opened the bottle. The other centaurs smelled the wine and didn't like Heracles drinking all of it, so they attacked Heracles. Heracles killed the centaurs by shooting them with his poisonous arrows and hitting them with his club. The centaurs tried to run away, but Heracles chased after them. A couple of centaurs escaped. One centaur named Chiron was injured, but he didn't die. While Heracles had been chasing the fleeing centaurs around, Pholus picked up one of the poisonous arrows and accidentally dropped it on his foot. He died, and when Heracles returned, he saw his dead friend. Heracles buried the centaur and continued his search for the boar. Eventually, Heracles found the boar. He ran towards it screaming. This was so he could scare it. Heracles chased the animal until it got stuck in deep snow. Heracles then picked up the boar and made his way back to King Eurystheus. When Heracles showed the boar to King Eurystheus, he got scared and jumped into a jar. Chapter 8, A Load of Poop. The 5th task that Heracles was given was to clean the Augean stables. These stables were full of cattle and poop, so they were not very clean. Heracles went to King Augeas and told him that he would clean the stables in one day if the king would give him some of his cattle. When Heracles managed to clean a part of the stables, it just got covered in waste again. He wouldn't be able to scoop out the mess. Heracles went to 2 nearby lakes and diverted the water to the stables. Water flowed through the stables and washed away the poop. With the stables clean, Heracles went to get his reward. But King Augeas refused to pay Heracles. King Augeas had discovered that Heracles had been given this task by King Eurystheus. Heracles said that the king had agreed to pay him, so he had to uphold his end of the bargain. The king refused, claiming that he never had said that, but King Augeas' son corrected him and told him to pay Heracles. The king didn't pay him, and Heracles returned to get his next task. King Eurystheus told Heracles that this task wouldn't count because he was almost paid, so Heracles would have to do another task to make up for this one. Chapter 9, Death Metal. The next task Heracles was given was to defeat the Stymphalian birds. The Stymphalian birds had bronze beaks and metallic feathers. They would stab people to death with their beaks. Heracles found them sitting in a tree. Heracles scared the birds out of the tree by using a rattle given to him by Athena, and then he shot down the birds. A couple of the birds escaped, but Heracles had completed his task, so he returned to King Eurystheus. Heracles did a lot, so I divided his accomplishments and quests into 2 episodes. Listen in next time to hear the rest of Heracles' story. I'm your host. This is Hellenic. See you next time.